It's Over Opinionated. Opinionated with Josh Cott.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Over Opinionated. This is our 50th episode, our official 50th episode, not counting little specials here and there and reruns. Just breaking last night. At some point a few hours ago, the Iranian president and country's foreign minister died in a helicopter crash. So far, it doesn't look like it's an attack. It just looks like it was a crash. This is big news because Iran is in a proxy war with Israel and sponsoring terrorism in Palestine and all over the region. Now, Iran does have a supreme leader that's kind of the quasi-dictator, but Iran still has kind of a democracy. If you're approved by the supreme leader, you get to run. So this will have an effect on them. But hopefully this doesn't agitate tensions more between them and Israel or Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia cannot stand Iran. And there's kind of a cold war in that region with people funding each other's proxies and rebels and terrorists on both sides. So hopefully it doesn't get worse. Okay, in other news, the majority of our podcast, we're going to be talking about Harrison Butker, the field goal kicker for the Kansas City Chiefs. He's a traditional Catholic. And, you know, I'm Protestant. I have a lot of issues with Catholic theology. But we're going to listen to the speech, and the vast majority of Protestant Christians should agree with this speech. It was at a small Catholic college called Benedictine College, and he gave the commencement speech. It was in Kansas. He plays for the Kansas City Chiefs in Missouri. So Kansas City's, you have a Kansas City, Missouri, and a Kansas City, Kansas. The football team's in Kansas City, Missouri. But we're going to review this speech and stop it periodically. But remember, he's a traditional Catholic. I have disagreements with Catholics, obviously, big disagreements. Protestant Catholics, we have huge disagreements. But I agree with the vast majority of this speech, and I think all Christians should agree with this speech. It has caused a lot of uproar in the media and in the NFL and just all over. A lot of feminists hate this speech, and let's go through it and see exactly why that is.
For successfully making. Ladies and gentlemen of the class of 2024, I would like to start off by congratulating all of you for successfully making it to this achievement today. I'm sure your high school graduation was not what you had imagined, and most likely neither was your first couple years of college. By making it to this moment through all the adversity thrown your way from COVID, I hope you learned the important lessons that suffering in this life is only temporary. As a group, you witnessed firsthand how bad leaders who don't stay in their lane can have a negative impact on society. It is through this lens that I want to take stock of how we got to where we are and where we want to go as citizens and, yes, as Catholics. One last thing before I begin. I want to be sure to thank President Minnis and the board for their invitation to speak. When President Minnis first reached out a couple of months ago, I had originally said no. You see, last year I gave the commencement address at my alma mater, Georgia Tech, and I felt that one graduation speech was more than enough, especially for someone who isn't a professional speaker. But of course, President Minnis used his gift of persuasion. and spoke to the many challenges you all faced throughout the COVID fiasco and how you missed out on so many milestones the rest of us older people have taken for granted. While COVID might have played a large role throughout your formative years, it is not unique. Bad policies and poor leadership have negatively impacted major life issues.
Before he goes on, I just want to point out, a lot of people have pointed out, but not everyone realized this, but believe it or not, the class of 2024, the college class of 2024, many of these students did not get a high school graduation because of the COVID pandemic. Believe it or not, but the COVID pandemic that started in March 2020 robbed many people of a high school graduation. And because of bad policies and fear of the unknown. And many of these students here are getting a proper graduation. Sadly, for those who didn't go into college, they won't have that. They'll have their, drive-by graduation or whatever they did, sadly. They were robbed, and it's sad. But, he's going to go on and continue to speak. But also remember all those that got robbed of a college graduation this year, that was robbed of the 2020 high school graduation because of all the pro-Palestinian and pro-Hamas protesters. It's a sad thing, but it happens. I mean, imagine getting cheated out of two big life accomplishments because of on the latter end, because of the protests. It's just out of cowardice on the administration's part. Just all it is. Because they could have had those graduations. But we're going to keep on listening to Harrison's graduation speech.
Things like abortion, IVF, surrogacy, euthanasia, as well as a growing support for degenerate cultural values in media, all stem from the pervasiveness of disorder. Our own nation is led by a man who publicly and proudly proclaims his Catholic faith, but at the same time is delusional enough to make the sign of the cross during a pro-abortion rally.
We'll stop him right there. And so Harrison Butker is extremely pro-life. I've known about that for a few years now. I've got to say I can commend him on that. He's in the NFL, and it's not like the NFL is pushing out, pro-life talking points for sure. He's definitely, this speech has gave him consequences for sure. Him going after abortion, IVF, and whatnot, and going after the President of the United States. Remember, the President of the United States claims to be a faithful Catholic. And as big as I disagree with the Roman Catholic Church, they get the sanctity of life right. And they are very pro-life. They're very staunchly pro-life. Remember, this is a Catholic university. This is not Virginia Tech. This is not UVA. This is a Catholic college. Forgive me, not a university. It's a Catholic college. And he is speaking to his fellow Roman Catholics. And so far, as a Protestant, I don't know why, I don't know how we could disagree with what he said. We stand up for the right to life and stand against corrupt leaders who claim to be Christian. I'm going to let him continue to speak.
He has been so vocal in his support for the murder of innocent babies that I'm sure to many people, it appears that you can be both Catholic and pro-choice. He is not alone. From the man behind the COVID lockdowns to the people pushing dangerous gender ideologies onto the youth of America, they all have a glaring thing in common. They are Catholic. This is an important reminder that being Catholic alone doesn't cut it. These are the sorts of things we are told in polite society to not bring up. The difficult and unpleasant things. But if we are going to be men and women for this time in history, we need to stop pretending that the Church of Nice is a winning proposition. We must always speak and act in charity, but never mistake charity for cowardice.
Let's stop right there. Yeah, he's right. We can't let the Church of Nice be the church of cowardice. And How many people claim to be Christian and live like the world? How many people claim to be a born-again believer and they're okay with killing babies? They're okay with pushing transgenderism, and whatnot. Not even to get in their own personal open sins. And we all have sins, but I'm talking about open sins that you're not repented of. So he says it's not enough to be Catholic. Let me translate for my Protestants. It's not enough to just say you're a Christian. Let's continue to listen to him.
It is safe to say that over the past few years, I've gained quite the reputation for speaking my mind. I never envisioned myself nor wanted to have this sort of a platform, but God has given it to me, so I have no other choice but to embrace it and preach more hard truths about accepting your lane and staying in it. As members of the church founded by Jesus Christ, it is our duty and ultimately privilege to be authentically and unapologetically Catholic. Don't be mistaken, even within the church, people in polite Catholic circles will try to persuade you to remain silent. There even was an award-winning film.
All right, I'll stop right there. I just want to say that's what Roman Catholics claim, that Christ instituted the Roman Catholic Church, their denomination. I couldn't disagree with that more. And I don't say that disrespectfully. I can't agree with that, because they're saying the Roman Catholic Church was instituted by Jesus instead of the church. The church, the lowercase c Catholic, which means universal, that word means universal. That means every believer of Jesus. That's what that means. It doesn't mean the modern day Catholic Church. Okay? That's not what it means. Now, I understand that he believes that. He's a Roman Catholic. But Jesus did not institute the Roman Catholic Church above the Protestant Church, above the Orthodox Church. He just didn't. There's one church, there's one tree, and there's many branches of the tree. Each denomination and non-denominational church would be a branch of that tree. And at the root would be Christ. But Rome claims to be the entire tree, and Rome's not the entire tree. They are a branch of the tree. Okay, well, we'll continue to listen.
Called Silence, made by a fellow Catholic, wherein one of the main characters, a Jesuit priest, abandoned the church, and as an apostate, when he died, is seen grasping a crucifix, quiet and unknown to anyone but God. As a friend of Benedictine College, His Excellency Bishop Robert Barron said in his review of the film, it was exactly what the cultural elite want to see in Christianity: private, hidden away, and harmless. Our Catholic faith has always been countercultural. Our Lord, along with countless followers, were all put to death for their adherence to her teachings. The world around us says that we should keep our beliefs to ourselves whenever they go against the tyranny of diversity, equity, and inclusion. We fear speaking truth because now, unfortunately, truth is in the minority. Congress just passed a bill where stating something as basic as the biblical teaching of who killed Jesus could land you in jail.
All right, let's go over some of what he said. He said the Catholic faith has always been countercultural. Substitute the word Catholic for Christian. That's true. The Christian faith has always been countercultural. Christianity goes against the will of men. It just does. You read the Bible, and it goes against the will of man, because our sin nature pollutes our will. And the Bible is against sin. And that's unpopular. And that's why the liberals and the feminists hate Harrison Butker for this speech. And remember, Christ was killed for our sins. He sacrificed himself for our sins. They hated him because he told the truth.
Let's take a quick break.
Hello everyone, welcome to Over Opinionated. I'm the host, Josh Scott. I'm not a millionaire from Fox News or CNN. I will give you my opinion, I will research it, and I will do my absolute best to give you all the facts. but I'm also going to give you my opinion. I don't shy away from my Christian faith, and I often try to relate my faith back into my politics because I believe that we should serve God and country. I tackle difficult topics like politics, religion, pop culture, and multiple other things. If you would like to find me, you can find me on social media. My personal X account is at NRV_guy79. You can also follow the show's account at Over Opinionated, with one being the second I and a capital O. You can find us at TikTok, just at Over Opinionated. It's my personal account, and I promote the show on it. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram. Just search up Over Opinionated and you should be able to find us. Also, if you would like to financially support us and help keep us independent, which we will always be independent, but if you would like to help us, you can go to www.patreon.com/overopinionated679 with a capital O. Now, don't give to us instead of your church, and don't give to us if you're having a hard time paying the bills, okay? I understand how it is to make ends meet. If you give to us, though, every time we make a withdrawal, we will donate 10% to a pregnancy resource center, which gives money to young mothers in a crisis pregnancy need. We're pro-life here, and we believe in giving back. So I would just like to say, God bless you. Enjoy the show. They hated the 12 apostles and 12 disciples because they told the truth. And they killed every single one of them except St. John, because they couldn't kill St. John. They tried several times. So they just eventually sent him to an island to live out the rest of his days. And that's where he wrote the book of Revelation. So we're going to keep continuing and listening to him. Before we do, he mentioned diversity, equity, inclusion. That's being pushed from the White House down. It's basically kind of an affirmative action. We're going to diversify things based on skin color, based on this and this, instead of the best man or the best woman for the job, for the position. And that's all it is. That's all it is. Let's continue to listen to him.
But make no mistake, before we even attempt to fix any of the issues plaguing society, we must first get our own house in order, and it starts with our leaders. The bishops and priests appointed by God as our spiritual fathers must be rightly ordered. There's not enough time today for me to list all the stories of priests and bishops misleading their flocks, but none of us can blame ignorance anymore and just blindly proclaim that that's what Father said. Because sadly, many priests we are looking to for leadership are the same ones who prioritize their hobbies or even photos with their dogs and matching outfits for the parish directory. It's easy for us laymen and women to think that in order for us to be holy, that we must be active in our parish and try to fix it. Yes, we absolutely should be involved in supporting our parishes, but we cannot be the source for our parish priests to lean on to help with their problems. Just as we look at the relationship between a father and his son, so too should we look at the relationship between a priest and his people. It would not be appropriate for me to always be looking to my son for help when it is my job as his father to lead him. St. Jose Maria.
Okay, he gives a few points that are very crucial. I'm going to substitute them with Protestant words instead of priest. There are many pastors that care more about their Instagram followers than they care about their church. Basically what he's saying. And there's some truth to that. There are some ungodly pastors out there that need to be put in check. And what can we do as just laymen of the church? That means just churchgoers. Well, you can bring things up to the governing body, the deacons. If you have to, you can switch churches, but let that be probably the last ditch effort. Try to talk to your pastor, encourage him to do better. And if there's no way to heal the divide, the church is just becoming sinful and is just becoming a social club, it's no longer concerned about God's word, then leave and take as many with you. And some people say, well, don't say that. It's just, if the church is going sideways, if it's going down, leave and take as many with you to a godly church. But let that be the last ditch effort after trying your best to save it. And trying your best to get your pastor on the right path. We'll continue with the speech.
Breva states that priests are ordained to serve and should not yield to temptation to imitate lay people, but to be priests through and through. Tragically, so many priests revolve much of their happiness from the adulation they receive from their parishioners. And in searching for this, they let their guard down and become overly familiar. This undue familiarity will prove to be problematic every time because, as my teammate's girlfriend says, familiarity breeds contempt.
Get it? It's a Taylor Swift reference. His teammate's girlfriend, Travis Kelce. Taylor. Get it? Yeah, we get it. Okay.
St. Jose Maria continues that some want to see the priest as just another man. That is not so. They want to find in the priest those virtues proper to every Christian, and indeed every honorable man: understanding, justice, a life of work, priestly work in this instance, and good manners. It is not prudent as the laity for us to consume ourselves in becoming amateur theologians so that we can decipher this or that theological teaching, unless, of course, you are a theology major. We must be intentional with our focus on our state in life and our own vocation. And for most of us, that's as married men and women. Still, we have so many great resources at our fingertips that it doesn't take long to find traditional and timeless teachings that haven't been ambiguously reworded for our times. Plus, there are still many good and holy priests, and it's up to us to seek them out. The chaos of the world is unfortunately reflected in the chaos in our parishes, and sadly, in our cathedrals too. As we saw during the pandemic, too many bishops were not leaders at all. They were motivated by fear of being sued, fear of being removed, fear of being disliked. They showed by their actions, intentional or unintentional, that the sacraments don't actually matter. Because of this, countless people died alone without access to the sacraments, and it's a tragedy we must never forget.
Stop there. How many pastors cowered during COVID-19? They just kept the door shut completely. And I don't mean in the very, very early days. And I'm not saying you just never listen to the government. But I'd be fine with pastors, churches denying the government, saying, no, we have a right to worship. We're going to the house of the Lord. If you're going to arrest us all, arrest us all. I would have been fine with that. Instead, I understand in the very, very early days, I understand precaution. We didn't know as much. But this went on for about a year and a half. A lot longer than it should have. How many pastors didn't go to hospitals when they should have? A lot more than I'm comfortable with.
Catholics, we can look to so many examples of heroic shepherds who gave their lives for their people and ultimately the church. We cannot buy into the lie that the things we experienced during COVID were appropriate. Over the centuries, there have been great wars, great famines, and yes, even great diseases, all that came with a level of lethality and danger. But in each of those examples, church leaders leaned into their vocations and ensured that their people received the sacraments. Great saints like St. Damien of Malachi, who knew the dangers of his ministry, stayed for 11 years as a spiritual leader to the leper colonies of Hawaii. His heroism is looked at today as something set apart and unique, when ideally it should not be unique at all. For as a father loves his child, so a shepherd should love his spiritual children too. That goes even more so for our bishops, these men who are present-day apostles. Our bishops once had adoring crowds of people kissing their rings and taking in their every word, but now relegate themselves to a position of inconsequential existence. Now, when a bishop of a diocese or the bishops' conference as a whole puts out an important document on this matter or that, nobody even takes a moment to read it, let alone follow it. No. Today, our shepherds are far more concerned with keeping the doors open to the chancery than they are with saying the difficult stuff out loud. It seems that the only time you hear from your bishops is when it's time for the annual appeal, whereas we need our bishops to be vocal about the teachings of the church, setting aside their own personal comfort and embracing their cross. Our bishops are not politicians, but shepherds. So instead of fitting in the world by going along to get along, they too need to stay in their lane and lead. I say all of this not from a place of anger, as we get the leaders we deserve. But this does make me reflect on staying in my lane and focusing on my own vocation and how I can be a better father and husband and live in the world, but not be of it. Focusing on my vocation while praying and fasting for these men will do more for the church than me complaining about her leaders. Because there seems to be so much confusion coming from our leaders, there needs to be concrete examples for people to look to in places like Benedictine, a little Kansas college built high on a bluff above the Missouri River, are showing the world how an ordered, Christ-centered existence is the recipe for success. You need to look no further than the examples all around this campus, where over the past 20 years, enrollment has doubled, construction and revitalization are a constant part of life, and people, the students, the faculty and staff, are thriving. This didn't happen by chance. In a deliberate movement to embrace traditional Catholic values, Benedictine has gone from just another liberal arts school with nothing to set it apart to a thriving beacon of light and a reminder to us all that when you embrace tradition, success, worldly and spiritual, will follow. I am certain the reporters at the AP could not have imagined that their attempt to rebuke and embarrass places and people like those here at Benedictine wouldn't be met with anger, but instead met with excitement and pride. Not the deadly sin sort of pride that has an entire month dedicated to it, but the true God-centered pride
that really, that line right there, not pride that has sin to it, that has an entire month dedicated to it. That line right there definitely got in the crawl of the left. Don't ever talk bad about homosexuality. Don't ever talk bad about the LGBTQ, LNOP, XYZ community. Don't ever talk bad about those guys. Don't ever talk bad about their sin. And he didn't care because he's a man of conviction.
is cooperating with the Holy Ghost to glorify him. Reading that article now shared all over the world, we see that in the complete surrender of self and a turning towards Christ, you will find happiness. Right here in a little town in Kansas, we find many inspiring lay people using their talents. President Minnis, Dr. Swafford, and Dr. Zimmerer are a few great examples right here on this very campus that will keep the light of Christ burning bright for generations to come. Being locked in with your vocation and staying in your lane is going to be the surest way for you to find true happiness and peace in this life. It is essential that we focus on our own state in life, whether that be as a layperson, a priest, or religious. Ladies and gentlemen of the class of 2024, you are sitting at the edge of the rest of your lives. Each of you has the potential to leave a legacy that transcends yourselves and this era of human existence. In the small ways, by living out your vocation, you will ensure that God's church continues and the world is enlightened by your example. For the ladies present today, congratulations on an amazing accomplishment.
All right. Now we're going to get into the more spicy end of his commencement speech, talking about the women. And everything he says is basically true. He says it's great to have a career. It's great that you're graduating. But the best thing you'll ever do in life for the majority of you is being a mother and a wife. And to the left, to the feminists, they just can't stand taking that. But you ask my grandmother, who went back to college when she was 40 to get a good, successful job, and she did, what meant more to her career or her family? She's going to tell you her family. And the same thing for men. Being a father means more than a career or anything else. Let's listen to the rest of his speech.
You should be proud of all that you have achieved to this point in your young lives. I want to speak directly to you briefly because I think it is you, the women, who have had the most diabolical lies told to you? How many of you are sitting here now about to cross this stage and are thinking about all the promotions and titles you are going to get in your career? Some of you may go on to lead successful careers in the world, but I would venture to guess that the majority of you are most excited about your marriage and the children you will bring into this world. I can tell you that my beautiful wife, Isabel, would be the first to say that her life truly started when she began living her vocation as a wife and as a mother. I'm on this stage today and able to be the man I am because I have a wife who leans into her vocation. I'm beyond blessed with the many talents God has given me, but it cannot be overstated that all of my success is made possible because a girl I met in band class back in middle school would convert to the faith, become my wife, and embrace one of the most important titles of all, homemaker.
That right there, this drove the left crazy. Homemaker, how could that be a good title? Are you saying she should just stay in the kitchen and not have opinions and make the lasagna? And no, that's not what he's saying at all. He's saying that everything, he credits his career and his success to his wife. He credits his life to his wife. And it takes a family unit. And that's the important thing that Protestant Christians and Catholics understand. The family unit is the building block of society. When that breaks down, everything else breaks down. And it's just true. The left hates that. The feminist movement hate that. They want to be a fierce, independent woman and have a career and everything. Well, let me tell you, you go to a cemetery. When you look at the cemetery, when you look at headstones, they don't say CEO of Walmart or secretary at, somewhere else or this or that. It says loving father, loving husband, loving mother, great friend. So your job doesn't normally define your headstone. Your job's important. Your job's how you make money. You can interact with people at your job, maybe spread the gospel at your job and try to do a good job at it. And try to do a good job with your career. But that's not the biggest thing in life. The biggest thing in life is the family, is your children, is your wife, is your husband. And if you can't have children, it's not saying that you're less than. If you're married, you can't have children, it's not saying you're less than. Dedicate yourself to your spouse. Everyone has family. If you're born, you have family. You have a mother and a father, even if they've passed away. Everyone's related to everyone. Be a loving family man. Be a loving family woman. Don't buy into the lie that it's wrong to want a traditional way of life. All right, let's continue.
She's a primary educator to our children. She's the one who ensures I never let football or my business become a distraction from that of a husband and father. She's the person that knows me best at my core, and it is through our marriage that, Lord willing, we will both attain salvation. I say all of this to you because I have seen it firsthand, how much happier someone can be when they disregard the outside noise and move closer and closer to God's will in their life. Isabel's dream of having a career might not have come true, but if you asked her today if she has any regrets on her decision, she would laugh out loud without hesitation and say, heck no. As a man who gets a lot of praise and has been given a platform to speak to audiences like this one today, I pray that I always use my voice for God and not for myself. Everything I am saying to you is not from a place of wisdom, but rather a place of experience. I am hopeful that these words will be seen as those from a man not much older than you, who feels it is imperative that this class, this generation, and this time in our society must stop pretending that the things we see around us are normal. Heterodox ideas abound even within Catholic circles, for let's be honest, there is nothing good about playing God with having children, whether that be your ideal number or the perfect time to conceive. No matter how you spin it, there is nothing natural about Catholic birth control.
All right, I'm going to stop. This is where a Protestant, I would disagree with him. I agree with him 100% when it comes to abortion being murder, but Catholics are dead against any contraception, anything. They're against birth control pills and all that because they believe it's them limiting God and how many children they can have in the marriage. I don't agree. I don't think it's a sin to have birth control inside of a marriage. Now, outside of a marriage, obviously, sex outside marriage is sinful. But this is where we just disagree. And this is just a Protestant-Catholic divide. And we'll just let them speak.
It is only in the past few years that I have grown in courage to speak more boldly and directly, because as I mentioned earlier, I have leaned into my vocation as a husband and father, and as a man. To the gentleman here today, part of what plagues our society is this lie that has been told to you that men are not necessary in the home or in our communities. As men, we set the tone of the culture, and when that is absent, disorder, dysfunction, and chaos set in. This absence of men in the home is what plays a large role in the violence we see all around the nation. Other countries do not have nearly the same absentee father rates as we find here in the U.S.
All right, I just want to stop right there. That's so true. So much of today's world is saying, we don't need fathers, because that kills. Saying we don't need fathers, a household needs both a mother and a father, and if you take one out, it just messes things up. Now, that doesn't mean you can't come from a single-parent household and be successful. It doesn't mean that. But statistics are true. I should have brought them up. I don't have them with me right now. But it's statistically true. Most shooters come from a single mom house. It's just true. Life is much harder with only one parent. You need a father to show you certain things, and you need a mother to show you certain things. Both love and guide you. A child needs a father and a mother. And men are just as valuable as women. And I think we're forgetting that in this super feminist age, where it just course correct because of, in the past, women have not been treated well. And now we're trying to course correct that. And, they'll say, well, I don't need a man. I can do this. I can be a single mom and all that. Well, I wish you luck. I hope the best for you and your kids. But it's best to have a father and a mother. It just is. So feminism, just modern day feminism, just goes against the Bible. It goes against God. I'm sorry, it does. God loves women. God uses women. But to just say that we're going to reject all the norms of Christianity and all the norms of society for the last 2,000 years, and we're just going to throw them on the wayside and expect everything to be okay, that doesn't work. That doesn't work. Feminism is, and it's bad for women. It is bad for women. Women need men, and men need women.
And a correlation could be made in their drastically lower violence rates as well. Be unapologetic in your masculinity, fighting against the cultural emasculation of men. Do hard things. Never settle for what is easy. You might have a talent that you don't necessarily enjoy, but if it glorifies God, maybe you should lean into that over something that you might think suits you better. I speak from experience as an introvert who now finds myself as an amateur public speaker and an entrepreneur, something I never thought I'd be when I received my industrial engineering degree. The road ahead is bright, Things are changing, society is shifting, and people young and old are embracing tradition. Not only has it been my vocation that has helped me and those closest to me, but not surprising to many of you, should be my outspoken embrace of the traditional Latin Mass. I've been very vocal in my love and devotion to the TLM and its necessity for our lives. But what I think gets misunderstood is that people who attend the TLM do so out of pride or preference. I can speak to my own experience, but for most people I have come across within these communities, this simply is not true. I do not attend the TLM because I think I am better than others, or for the smells and bells, or even for the love of Latin. I attend the TLM because I believe, just as the God of the Old Testament was pretty particular in how he wanted to be worshiped, the same holds true for us today. It is through the TLM that I encountered order and began to pursue it in my own life. Aside from the TLM itself, too many of our sacred traditions have been relegated to things of the past, when in my parish, things such as Ember Days, days when we fast and pray for vocations and for our priests, are still adhered to. The TLM is so essential that I would challenge each of you to pick a place to move where it is readily available. A lot of people have complaints about the parish or the community, but we should not sacrifice the Mass for community. I prioritize the TLM even if the parish isn't beautiful, the priest isn't great, or the community isn't amazing. I still go to the TLM because I believe the holy sacrifice of the Mass is more important than anything else. I say this knowing full well that when each of you rekindle your knowledge and adherence to many of the Church's greatest traditions, you will see how much more colorful and alive your life can and should be.
We'll pause it right there. As a Protestant, that doesn't mean anything to us whatsoever. The Latin Mass, there's a controversy in Catholicism if you should have the traditional Latin Mass or a Mass in the native tongue, and this is when you go to receive the Eucharist, or what we would call communion. So that doesn't mean anything to us. But the more traditional, the more conservative would be the Latin Mass, and then the more moderate or liberal Catholics would suggest the native tongue. Latin's considered the holy language to Catholics. Though I think it's a holy language, no. I just think it's a language. If there's going to be any holy language, it'd probably be Hebrew, right? If there is a holy tongue, would it not be Hebrew? But we'll let him continue.
Move on from this place and enter into the world. Know that you will face many challenges. Sadly, I'm sure many of you know of the countless stories of good and active members of this community who, after graduation and moving away from the Benedictine bubble, have ended up moving in with their boyfriend or girlfriend prior to marriage. Some even leave the church and abandon God. It is always heartbreaking to hear these stories, and there is a desire to know what happened and what went wrong. What you must remember is that life is about doing the small things well, setting yourself up for success, and surrounding yourself with people who continually push you to be the best version of you. I say this all the time.
He talks about people walking away from God. Yeah, that happens. It can be discouraging, and then you start looking at yourself. It's like, Sally Sue, she was a great Christian, and look at me, and she left. Look at me. How am I going to make it? But you just have to stay in the faith and pray, have faith in Christ, and realize that your free will, your conscience has decisions. You can choose to stay, and if you go away, you can always choose to come back. But don't let the fate of someone else, walking away from the faith deter you from continuing to follow Jesus.
That iron sharpens iron. It's a great reminder that those closest to us should be making us better. If you are dating someone who doesn't even share your faith, how do you expect that person to help you become a saint? If your friend group is filled with people who only think about what you're doing next weekend and are not willing to have those difficult conversations, how can they help sharpen you? As you prepare to enter into the workforce, it is extremely important that you actually think about the places you are moving to. Who is the bishop? What kind of parishes are there? Do they offer the TLM and have priests who embrace their priestly vocation? Cost of living must not be the only arbiter of your choices, for a life without God is not a life at all, and the cost of salvation is worth more than any career. I'm excited for the future, and I pray that something I have said will resonate as you move on to the next chapter of your life. Never be afraid to profess the one holy, Catholic, and Apostolic Church, for this is the church that Jesus Christ established, through which we receive sanctifying grace. I know that my message today had a little less fluff than is expected for these speeches, but I believe that this audience and this venue is the best place to speak openly and honestly about who we are and where we all want to go, which is heaven. I thank God for Benedictine College and for the example it provides to the world. I thank God for men like President Minnis who are doing their part for the kingdom. Come to find out, you can have an authentically Catholic college and a thriving football program. Make no mistake, you are entering into mission territory in a post-God world, but you were made for this, and with God by your side and a constant striving for virtue within your vocation, you too can be a saint. Christ is King to the heights.
And that is his entire speech, and some people might think it's petty that I played the entire speech, but I didn't want someone to say I took him out of context. And listen, I've got a lot of issues with a lot of the theological points he made. I don't think the Catholic Church is the one true church. I don't think the Roman Catholic Church is the one true Holy Catholic Church. I believe that all Christians make up the true Christian Catholic under lowercase c church, the universal church, and that Rome is just a branch on the tree. Even though I believe that they teach some heresy, I do believe there are legitimate saved Christians. Let's talk about the backlash. The NFL issued a statement that it does not endorse any of the beliefs of Harrison Butker, which I understand, but how many times does the NFL do this? Does the NFL say that about anyone? I mean, does the NFL say that about everyone? Or is it just because Harrison Butker made a traditional Catholic speech at a traditional Catholic college? Would he say this to anyone else? If there was a Muslim that spoke at an Islamic college, would they make that statement? If, and the NFL does not have a very good track record with athletes. Harrison Butker is saying he's a traditional Catholic and believes in traditional Catholic values. And then you have people like Ray Rice, and yeah, the NFL condemned that. Ray Rice that just punched his wife in the face in the elevator and drug her out. And you have Deshaun Watson. Now he eventually got suspended for a while, but reports of multiple sexual assault, you have reports of NFL players having multiple children out of wedlock with many different women. They were even starting to teach NFL players, you have to call for a taxi or an Uber if you're drunk. Stop driving and drinking. Because there's a bunch of NFL players that were driving and drinking. But, Harrison Butker, what he said was so offensive, that women's biggest priority in life is being a mother and a wife. That's so offensive to issues the NFL has to say, we do not endorse your statements. That's what's really offensive. That's what's really bad for women, is being a wife and a mother. It's not getting, hit. It's not getting abused by a drunken NFL player. But, being a traditional wife, that's what's really bad. Give me a break. Give me a break. The Kansas City, Missouri's Twitter account tweeted that Harrison Butker didn't live in Kansas City, and tweeted the city he lived, and it was a nearby city. They eventually deleted the tweet. So, so the field goal kicker that's helped bring in, and he did, you might say he's just a kicker. Yeah, he's a great kicker. He's one of the best. He's not the best, but he's one of the best. There might be, I guess there's just a thing for Catholic kickers, because the best kicker in the NFL is Tucker. I can't get his last name out, but for the Baltimore Ravens, he's Catholic too. And so I guess just that's a thing. If you're going to be a kicker, you should be Catholic. I don't know, but that's the thing. So they tweeted that out, that he didn't live in the city proper. They eventually deleted the tweet, but I mean, you're going to say which town he lives in, with all this crap going on. Well, let's just talk about that. In Travis Kelce, he goes to a commencement speech and he cracks open a beer and chugs it and encourages students to get drunk after, which way is better? They're both Kansas City Chiefs. Which way is better, the Harrison Butker way or Travis Kelce way? I'm going to go to Harrison Butker way. And his actually, they started a petition on change.org, the petition website to kick him off the league, get Kansas City to fire him. They're not going to fire him, I don't think, because he's one of the best kickers in the league. But they wanted him to get fired, a lot of them. Thankfully, the CEO of the Kansas City Chiefs has stuck up for him. A lot of feminists are hating what he's saying. They're calling him a misogynist, a sexist, and all the stupid names. When all he said is, it's great to have a career, but being a mother and a wife, and to also being a man with proper masculinity, that's the best thing. That's better than this. And serving God. I mean, and this is not at a secular university. This isn't at Virginia Tech. This isn't at UVA. This isn't at Princeton. This is at Benedictine College in Kansas State. Remember the Bible verse. Jesus said, if they hate you, remember they first hated me. On a good note, though, Harrison Butker's jerseys are number 1 in the NFL. Number 1. So he is beating out, on his team, he's beating out Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce, remember, is the boyfriend of Taylor Swift. And all the Swift Colties have bought his jersey. A lot of them have. And Patrick Mahomes is probably, when it's all said and done, he's probably going to be regarded as the best quarterback of all time. It's going to be him or Tom Brady. Mahomes, I love watching Mahomes because he's one of the best of all time. But Harrison Butker, the kicker, is got the best NFL, has the best NFL selling jersey right now, including with the women. So maybe just maybe, those traditional values aren't as bad as the left say they are. And remember, these are the same guys that say they're inclusive and tolerant. They're tolerant and inclusive of everyone they agree with and no one that they disagree with. Well, moving on, Joe Biden has finally agreed, took him a long time, to debate Donald Trump. And the debates will be heavily favored in him and toward him, and Trump just jumped at the opportunity to debate him. So let's go at it, and I'm going to read you guys a little bit of an article from Politico. Biden's team has a few demands for a Trump debate, a major one: no crowd. When Donald Trump took the stage at CNN's town hall in Manchester, New Hampshire 1 year ago, a crowd of his supporters roared and jeered all through the evening, overwhelming the moderators and effectively taking control of the event. President Joe Biden's advisors noted They received in private that if Biden ever faced Trump on the debate stage, there would be no one in the peanut gallery. That demand became part of the re-election campaign's agreed-upon proposal to Trump this week for two general election debates, one in June, the other in September. An empty TV studio, Biden allies feel deprived their GOP rival a major advantage when they faced off. Trump feeds off the crowd. They give him life, said one Biden advisor, who granted anonymity in order to discussion internal strategy. We wanted to take that away. Yeah, that's true. Trump does play off the crowd. He's like a comedian. So they're going to take that away. That's a huge win for Biden. I wouldn't have agreed to these terms if I was Trump. I wouldn't have. I'm going to keep reading, and I'll tell you the terms I would have agreed to if I was Trump. There were several conditions that the Biden team felt were necessary in order to agree to a debate with the former president. Among them, that at least one forum take place before the start of early voting, and that the hosts weren't from outlets with an ideological bent toward Trump. Okay, let's stop right there. So they don't want a Fox News debate. That's what it's saying. Yeah, we want a debate with liberal journalists that are going to side with President Biden on everything. And as we keep reading, one thing that they proposed, and they'll probably get through, is they want to be able to cut anyone's microphone off if they go over their time. Now, do you really think a liberal news outlet's going to be cutting Biden's microphone off? I bet they will. They'll be cutting Trump's microphone off 10, 15 seconds before his time runs out. Trump shouldn't have agreed to this. What I would have done is said, okay, you want to do two debates? We'll have one on MSNBC and we'll have one on Fox News. No ifs, ands, or buts. We'll have one with no crowd and one with a crowd. And if they don't do the crowd idea, and say, okay, both with no crowd, but I'm getting one at Fox News and you're getting one wherever you want your liberal host at. That's only fair. Really, I'd really kind of like it if this is how, if I get to set up the debates, and let's try to just realize the media is biased. Completely biased. Fox News is right-leaning, MSNBC is left-leaning, and then you have other news outlets, and they're all biased. Instead of pretending to be instead of pretending to be an unbiased news source, let's just go all in on it. Donald Trump's moderator, Sean Hannity. Joe Biden's moderator, Rachel Maddow. Rachel Maddow gets to ask Trump any questions she wants, and hard questions. Sean Hannity gets to ask Biden hard questions. That'd be more entertaining. That'd be more legitimate, wouldn't it? I mean, have two polar opposites. You know what I would actually like to see? Tucker Carlson. Put Tucker Carlson, let him be the moderator from Trump, and then, whoever for Joe Biden. That's what I would really like. I think that would be pretty neat. If you want a neutral guy, or someone he's not neutral, but if you want to have a quote-unquote neutral guy, throw Joe Rogan in there. Okay? Or you know what? If I'm Trump, you know what? I'll do one debate with you on MSNBC, but me and you, we're going to Joe Rogan's podcast, and we're going to just bash this out like men. That'd be entertaining. I'd buy pay-per-view for that. I mean, I would. But, that's not going to happen. And they're having the debates earlier because of early voting. I actually think that's probably a good thing, because I remember the first debate happened way after I casted my vote for president. So I would say probably have one early and then one right before Election Day. pretty close to Election Day. We'll keep reading. They also wanted to ensure that there was a clean typo and candidates to the debate that could it not turn into a smash mouth or spectacle. Biden allies have envisioned using the formats to pummel Trump on abortion rights. See, they take Trump's crowd away from him, and they're going to try their best to hit him on abortion. You know why Biden's agreeing to this debate? He ran away from the debate. He ran away from saying he would debate Trump. He did for a long time. He is doing this because he's losing. That's all it is. The Democrats see the polls, and you know what? Listen, the polls are normally biased toward the Democrats overall. There are some polling places that aren't. And if Trump is winning the national polls, then he's going to win the election. And right now, Trump is winning. Honestly, Trump could be losing the national polls within 3 to 4 points and could win the election. Because remember, a lot of times Republicans don't have to win the popular vote. You might say that's rigged. Listen, take it up with the founding fathers. It could be the same way with Democrats in the future if the political landscape changes. All you need is 270 electoral votes from the Electoral College. Okay? That's what you need. That's how it is. If you don't like me, try to get a constitutional amendment passed. That's all I can tell you. But it's true. Trump could lose the national popular vote and win the election because the Electoral College. And you might say that's unfair, but I actually like the Electoral College because it gives smaller states more of a say in a national election. And you also have it mirrored in the Senate and the House of Representatives. Every state gets 2 senators. West Virginia gets the same amount of votes in the Senate as California. I think that's the way it should be. But I'm going to go to 538. 538 is really good. They mix all the polls together, and they get they get their poll by mixing the left-leaning polls and the right-leaning polls. And right now, actually, as of May 19th, 2022, Donald Trump is winning by 1.2%. You might say that's really small. It is really small, but remember, Republicans don't do good with polls anyway. If the election was today, I'd bet money on Trump because Trump is winning. I'll be honest with you, Trump is winning. Now, does that mean that he's automatically going to win? No. Okay? When you really start watching this presidential election is after Labor Day. That's how you do most of these things, after Labor Day. I want to go to you guys. I want to read y'all some stats from a study I have found. Alright guys, I'm going to read you some stats from Echelon Insights. And I'm butchering the word. I just tried my best to pronounce it. It's Echelon. Echelon Insights. Donald Trump leads Joe Biden in the 2024 election. 49% to his 46%. And it goes over the issues, what people care about the most, and it's a 13-page report, and they release them every month. So we might go over this every month. Okay, so you have a first choice, a second choice, and a third choice about what you care about the most in the election. The number one issue is, what do you think it would be? It's the cost of living, how much stuff costs, with 23% of Americans carrying with their first choice, the cost of living is the most important. The second choice, 19%, and the third choice, so it's their third on the list, is 42%. That's huge, guys. Cost of living it's above any other issue. And that's bad for Biden because he's the president. It just is. And people remember, in 2020 is not a fair way to measure Trump because we had a global pandemic that we didn't understand. And a lot of blue states shut down even when the president wanted them to open up. So that's not a fair way to measure it. In 2019, things were going so nice. All right. Second choice after that, give you a second to think, is immigration, with 15% of people being their first choice, 11 being their second, and 26 being their third. Political corruption, jobs and the economy being 13%. All of this is bad for Joe Biden. Go down the list. Political corruption, 8% is their first choice. 9% is their second choice. 17 is their third choice. The state of democracy, so one that would be negative for Trump, even though, our democracy is fine under Trump, even Democrats are being ridiculous. 7%. Okay, compared that to the cost of living at 23%. Abortion is all the way down at 6%. People that have it at their second choice, it's still at 6%, and a combined choice of 12%. If abortion is all the way, if it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it's the 6. It's not even at the top 5. And that's, abortion right now is Democrats' milk cow. They go and they milk that cow as much as they can until the udders are sore. And man, it's just not working. It's just not working. Abortion's all the way down to 6. All right. And listen, and one of Biden's conditions is no third party candidates, because he's scared that RFK Jr. is going to take a lot of his votes. And listen, RFK has been polling, from anywhere between 9 and 15%. I mean, you break that 10% threshold, you deserve to be on the debate stage. And yeah, I think RFK Jr. will probably take more Biden votes than Trump just because of the last name. Now, he's probably closer to Trump in his politics, but not completely. I mean, RFK Jr. said that he wants abortion federally protected till birth, I'm pretty sure. And that's horrible. Now, he went back and he apologized, but that's where he is. And, RFK right now is the most successful third-party candidate since Ross Perot. And that's a big deal. I mean, it is. It's a big deal. Who's he going to take more votes from? Because we know that RFK doesn't have a chance of winning. You might not like the system, but it is a two-party system. But who's he going to take more votes from? Biden or Trump? We'll just have to wait and see. I'm hoping Biden, obviously. I'm going to play you the clip of Biden accepting, quote-unquote, Trump's challenge. And I want to show you how cringe it is and how ridiculous it is. Because he says like 50 to 40 words, and it takes him about 30 cuts. It's really bad. All right, everyone. This is from Joe Biden's campaign official TikTok account. And let's just play this and see how ridiculous it is. I'll review it. It's only 13 seconds.
Donald Trump lost 2 debates to me in 2020. Since then, he hadn't shown up for debate. Now he's acting like he wants to debate me again. Well, make my day, pal. I'll even do it twice. So let's pick the dates, Donald. I hear you're free on Wednesdays.
Okay, so he cuts. He has so many cuts to say hardly no words. Okay, he says that Trump lost 2 debates to him in 2020. I mean, if you want to call the screaming matches of 2020 a debate, Gosh, no one won those debates. They were just two old dinosaurs yelling at each other. It just sounded like, that's all it sounded like. I mean, it was embarrassing for Trump and Biden. And, oh, make my day, pal. More like, oh, please, oh, I can't go on Fox News. They're too mean to me. No. I can't, there can't be a crowd. Oh, no. No, I'll get distracted.
Oh.
Yeah. So there's that. And it's, so weak. And then I hear you're free on Wednesdays. That's a joke because Trump's in a court case right now. So be it. Hopefully the debates do good. Hopefully Trump keeps his composure. But when it comes to Trump, I never bet on him keeping his composure. Joe Biden has a very easy task. He just has to show up to the debate and not die. That's all he has to do. Show up to the debate, read his cue cards, and not die. And then everyone on MSNBC will be like, it's the greatest president ever, Sills. That's all it's going to be, guys. It's so stupid. Alright, I'm going to get you the Bible verse of the day and get y'all out of here. Thank you. Alright, everyone, I'm going to give you the Bible verse of the day. It goes fitting with Harrison Butker's speech. Jesus said these words. This is from the NIV. If the world hates you, keep in mind that it hated me first. And that is so true. That's your Bible verse of the day. Everyone, God bless you. Stay read up, stay prayed up, and we will see you in the next episode.